So today we're going to talk about hose clamps and a little bit of differences, at least with the ones I have here. I recently had this one break on me. It was on the exhaust for my jet ski, and it's allegedly stainless steel. I suspect it of being a low-grade stainless because it rusted, and it was in a situation where I couldn't see that side of it. It rusted while I was out on the lake. It broke, and then quickly thereafter my skis started to flood with water coming from the exhaust of the motor. Luckily for me, I made it to the ramp in time and the dock before my ski was almost underwater. And I didn't realize what it was till I got it up on the trailer and drained it down and seen this broken clamp. So I decided it was time to do some maintenance and do some research and get some better ones, so hopefully I won't have to worry about it anytime in the near distant future. In the near or distant future or relatively close distant future. So these clamps here are your generic off the shelf hardware store, auto parts store type clamp, worm gear or worm screw, whatever you want to call it, drive hose clamp. This one's 1/2 inch wide, pretty magnetic. I mean, it's it's pretty magnetic. It's holding its own weight with this little magnet here. This is a pretty decently strong little magnet. If I put it to something that's steel, such as this key ring, it's relatively strong. I mean, the keys are not falling off of there. It's pretty strong, and it's just holding on a little area of the key ring there. It's pretty strong. So that being said, it'll hold the weight of this up. Obviously, not as well as it'll hold that key ring because it is stainless, but there is iron in it. So iron or steel, whatever, and so it has some magnetic properties, and therefore the iron or steel in it will rust. And there you go, there's your failure, especially when you're dealing with salt water, which is a lot of what I ride in. Brackish water into lake, salt water, like that. So there's 6 of these on my exhaust system. I bought 2 as trials to see how I like them. And these I got from my local, it's a hose store. My local store is called Mako Hose. They make custom hydraulic hoses and the such. And they have all kind of fittings, hoses, and clamps and different things like that. And I got these. These are a different brand than these are. This one here is, it's hard for me to make it out, Trident, I think, Trident. And this one here is Ideal, and this is a called Power Gear. This is probably their heavier duty series. This is a 5/8 wide clamp as opposed to the 1/2 inch wide clamp, as you can see there. That's 1/2 inch, this is 5/8 wide. There's also a difference I noticed in the thickness of the actual stainless steel band, as well as this is stamped right on it. I don't know if it'll show up on the camera right there. Almost. Focus. Or not. 304 stainless steel right there. 304 stainless. which I believe is the better grade. I think this here is probably a 400 series stainless, which I believe is a lower grade. So, but I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. It's not marked, so I don't know what grade of stainless that is. This one you can tell is definitely a better grade because it's way less magnetic. If I try to, the magnet won't even pick it up. And it's barely magnetic. That is to say, I can pick the magnet up with it, but just barely. I mean, it barely hangs on there. So it's, you know, as opposed to this one here where it's a whole lot more, you know, a whole lot more magnetic. As you can see, I'm trying to fling that magnet off of there and not really going, whereas this one here, not much at all to barely do anything, it comes off. So it is magnetic, but just barely. So that tells me it's a better grade of stainless. Every part is a little bit magnetic. Well, yeah, every part's a little magnetic because even the screw can almost pick up the magnet, but not quite. That's the screw head. The screw body, whatever, I can pick the magnet up, but just barely with it. So it's not that magnetic. So there's some of your differences. These weren't as cheap as these ones would be. These, you know, hardware store style clamps. And I'm not saying you can't get these at the hardware store. I just haven't found them at my local hardware stores. I had to go to a specialty place to get them. You know, these cheap ones here are probably going to be, you know, $1, $2 a piece for this given size. This is about 3.2 inch clamp, 3.25, 3.20, somewhere in there, 3 1/4, whatever you want to call it, around that. Like I said, this is probably $1 to $2 for this given size each, I'm guessing. I don't know exactly. These here, I do know exactly how much I paid for these, because I have the receipt right here. There you go. $11.92 out the door for 2 of these clamps. I'm sure if I shop around and manage to find them anywhere locally, maybe I can get them a little cheaper, maybe not. I don't know. These are the Ideal brand, as I said. Kind of hard to see it with the glare there. Power Gear. It's pretty heavy duty. And what I like about this as opposed to this style, not only is it a better grade stainless and a thicker band, which gives you more spread of the load, the clamping force on your hose. So I like that as well. It spreads the more clamping area. Better stainless. And what's really nice about this, if you look on the inside here, you'll see the band continues on past the screw housing and goes back to here. That's extra solid band they put, and it blocks the worm gear screw slots that are in the band, so that way when you tighten it down you don't get rubber poking through there and start cutting the rubber with the holes. Any of you who have ever over tightened or excessively tightened one of these clamps, you'll know what I'm talking about, because the inside of this is kind of sharp on these slots here. I don't know why when they stamp these out that they don't roll it the other way and put the sharp side on the outside and the less sharp side on the inside, so you don't tend to cut your hose as much. But I don't know, that's the way they do it, and the sharp side is in, and you can feel it with your finger how sharp it is, and there's no protection there for your hose. So if you tighten these up too much, it usually, depending on the hose you're on, it can start slicing up your hose, because as you're tightening it, it's pulling and moving, and you'll see rubber starting to come up through the slots here. And then if you ever take it off, then you'll see there's little nicks in your hose where these cut into it. So that's the downside of this one. You gotta be careful you don't over tighten, but sometimes you might end up in a situation where you need it pretty tight. Especially if you have a fitting you're tightening the hose on that may not have a good retention barb or lip on the end of the fitting that the hose is going on. There's usually a little hump or nub or barb, whatever you want to call it, at the end of your fitting that your hose slides on. So then when you go past that with the clamp and you're on closer to the end of the hose, you know, on this side of the end of the hose, you'll have a barb on the fitting so that the clamp and the hose can't slide over it, because it's a little bigger, and that gives resistance. So if the hose and clamp were to try to slide off, they would encounter a tighter fit and wouldn't be able to clear that threshold, clear that hump to get over it, because you have tension all the way around this. So and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So here we have a prime example, so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's your I don't know, hump or barb or whatever you want to call it. It's not really a barb, because it's not a barb. Usually has a ramp to it and then a sharp side where it grabs. This is a little different. I don't know the technical term for it, but it's a hose fitting ridge. I'm not even sure. I can't even think about what I'd call it right now, what the term is. But I'm sure somebody will put it down in the comments somewhere what it's called. But yeah, so now you see what I'm talking about. And so when your clamp goes on there, as you tighten it down and your hose is over this and your hose goes beyond the end of your clamp a little bit, then if it tries to pull out, because your clamp is snug around the hose and now clamped down as a certain diameter, and it tries to go over that, it can't go over that, because that's bigger than the inner diameter area of the hose will allow to go over this, because the way your clamp is sitting on the hose. So you kind of see what I'm talking about there. And so that's what I'm talking about. And so yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, you know, you get what you pay for sometimes, and this seems to be the best option, especially for my situation for marine use. I think these are going to last a lot longer. You know, if you're doing a automotive repair or something, you can get away with these. But I don't see why you know, if you're doing maintenance, and this is the important thing here, you know, I have to do maintenance on my ski. I'm going to probably go ahead and replace all those clamps, because now I'm afraid another one's going to break and give me the same issue. So I got these two to make sure they're going to fit properly and everything, and I'm probably going to get another 4 more and go ahead and change all the exhaust ones out anyway, because that's a big leak and failure point. Should one of these break, it'll let a lot of water in very fast. You don't want that to happen. So I will give you another specification here before I cut this video. And let's see here. Using the calipers, I wanted to show you this as well. And yeah, they're pretty zeroed. Okay. So if we look at the thickness of this band, I'm trying to look through the camera while I'm doing this, or let's do it this way. Okay, you can see 0.03, it's fluctuating a little. Okay, there we go, that's about right. 0.295, give or take, 90. Okay, try another little spot here. There you go. So yeah, I was happier with the 0.295 measurement that I got. Yeah. Try not to over squeeze these calipers. But anyway, yeah, it's around 0.295. So if we go 0.295, it's easier for me to do it like this and just put it about where it was, because I can't really hold it and then change the settings on this. Oops. So right there, lock that down. 0.295 in inches. And I can change this. It's 1/32, but it's going to read the same on that clamp as well, because they're so close it can't differentiate that in fractions. But 0.74 roughly millimeters. 0.74 millimeters, as you can see, or you can't. 0.0295 inches. So, and then I'll go ahead and do this other one, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. This one actually is thinner, but yeah, somewhere in there, 0.0265 or so, and so if I go back to that, where it was about there, lock that down. Still going to read 1/32 because it's so close it can't differentiate. 0.67 millimeter roughly. And now I'm not being very accurate with this. You know, my clamping pressure could be slightly off, whatever. I'll even try it again. Let's see, let's zero this out here. Okay, try this again. So, I don't know, somewhere in there, 0.74 millimeter, somewhere in there. Try this one again. And you can tell there is a difference. I'm trying to put the same, you know, force, barely any on there, and but you can tell there's a difference, 0.66. So you get the idea anyway. So, you know, this band is thicker. The stainless is actually physically thicker. I can feel it, I can see it, I can measure it. It is physically thicker than this band is. Not by much, but a very little bit. And to me that adds strength. Not only in the thickness, but the width of the band. As you can see, if you look where the slots are about the same size on both bands, but you have more meat and area on both sides of the slots, because the slots weaken the band, because you have a cut going across your band. There's no material in that slot right there, just the floating piece that's protecting the hose from getting cut, but it's not attached. It's just loosely laying in there. Just as when you tighten your hose and these start coming through, they'll be loosely hanging across the top here. So these cuts are creating a weakness in your band. So by having a wider band, you have more meat on the band on both sides of the slots. So less chance for breakage there. So it makes it a stronger clamp. And I don't know the technical, PSI pressure it can handle, or, whatever, torque load or whatever. I mean, you are putting it on a rubber hose of some sort, or some kind of hose, whatever kind of hose you're putting it on. And you can only tighten it so tight anyway before you start damaging your hose. So, I'm not really worried about that specification so much. But, yeah, I mean, there's your differences, best I can show you. And sometimes you kind of get what you pay for. You buy a cheap clamp, especially if you're going to do anything on salt water, around salt water, or if you just want a better quality clamp, you're probably better off. And this is substantially heavier than this one. I don't have a scale to weigh something this light, but if I had to guess, I would say it's almost twice as heavy as this one. Maybe not quite twice as heavy, but pretty heavy. And I can tell that this screw housing, or whatever you want to call it, does add a significant amount more of weight than obviously this one does. So that's the bulk of the weight adding, as well as the band thickness. Band thickness and band width adds weight, obviously, too. I don't know that the different grade of stainless adds or subtracts weight. I mean, this cheaper grade has more iron or steel in it. I'm not sure if that really adds any significant or detracts any significant weight difference as far as the quality grade of stainless. But yeah, there you go. There's your differences as best I could describe it to you. So, hope that helps somebody out a little bit there in knowing some of the basic differences between this style of clamp. There are a lot of other styles out there. There's a T-bolt style clamp that has they use it a lot for silicone hoses, for like automotive and marine or whatever, and you can get all stainless versions of that as well. And it's got a what they call a T-bolt that goes across, and the clamp has these brackets welded onto it, and the bolt has a T that goes this way and then comes through this way, and then has a nut and goes through another bracket, and then you tighten it, and that bolt itself compresses, or you either expand it or compress the clamp that way. And the clamp has similar to this, where it has extra band running around, because just the way it's designed as a T-bolt style. There's German styles of these too, and the German style ones, instead of cutting the slots for the screw thread to go into, they actually, I guess they press it with a machine, and it's dimpled where the screw threads go. So it's not actually a hole, it's a dimple in the metal, a slot dimple that kind of resembles the functionality of the hole where the threads go. So that is allegedly keeps the clamp stronger, because you're not taking material away from the clamp. They're just pressing it in to allow a slot ridge to be there so the thread can go into it, which is a pretty neat concept as well. Those are the German style worm gear clamps, and they seem very hard to find locally. I haven't found them locally yet, so I have found them online. They're also not cheap and not readily available for me. I'd have to order them. So these were not cheap, but again, they're pretty decent size. I mean, they're 3 1/4 or so. Let's see if they even have a specification on here for that. Yeah, they say here that's what they're showing. 2.75 to 3.625, and that's the, I don't know if that's Ideal's item number or if that's Mako Ho's item number, but yeah, and you can see I got 2, and you can see the price, and so yeah, that's where I got them. Mako Hose and Rubber out of West Palm. So, and they do have a website. So if you can't find them anywhere else, you know, there you go. I mean, at least you got an option there. Website, phone number. I don't know if they ship. I'd imagine they would ship them to you. I don't know. But from now on, I'm not going with anything else. I'm liking these. I mean, I might look into the German style ones. I may use the T-bolt clamp style for certain things. I did find some T-bolt ones that were about the same size online. There was like 5 for $15 plus some shipping. That's a pretty good deal. And they were T-bolt though, so, and they would work as well as long as the bolt is stainless steel. That's what you got to be careful of. If you get the T-bolt style of clamp and you want them for marine type use, especially if you're going to be in salt water, you need to make sure that the T-bolt, which replaces this worm gear mechanism here, the T-bolt's pretty long. You need to make sure that's a stainless steel variety of T-bolt. I don't know what grade stainless it would be, but you want to make sure it's stainless versus the regular steel T-bolt. Because if you're in salt water, that bolt will probably rust in short order, and either the nut will seize on there and you won't even be able to loosen it or tighten it or anything, or it may fail altogether in a short time. So I do know they make them in both styles, with a regular bolt and a stainless T-bolt. So, and the same well as these clamps. Obviously you see you can get them in different grades of stainless. There's a couple markings. I'm not sure what that is. That marking there. Not really sure, but there's marking on it there. And then, like I said, Power Gear, Ideal. I don't know what that is. That just marks, I guess. That's all the markings that are on this that I see. Yeah, I'm liking these, so just thought I'd share that with you. Alright, catch you later.